She's a women's rights campaigner and co-founder of Cultural Project. She has extensive publications through the UK media. She has campaigned against rape, abduction of women in Iraq, against the imposition of Islamic Sharia law in Kurdistan, and has also fought against any other campaigns against so-called honor killings, gender-based violence around the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank Center for Kurdish Progress for organizing this event, which is really important to speak about the aftermath of the referendum for independence of Kurdistan. And thanks, Shari, for the introduction, for chairing the meeting. And I'm glad I heard both your arguments earlier on. I am going to have a more generic, probably, and more as well as focus on why a referendum is a basic fundamental right of Kurdish people, not only in Iraq, but in the four other parts, like in Syria, Iran, and Turkey as well. And it has been one of my arguments as well. If all these Arab countries exist, why not even only one Kurdish state can exist? What is so strange about that? So, and also, before going into the argument, I'm very passionate about it, I just want to remind us all, like, it's true we are speaking in this parliament, but let's not forget it's in the heart of the beast, who actually created the modern Middle Eastern states. It was, as some of the British historians themselves say, Miss Gertrude Bell, she was the midwife of so many modern Middle Eastern countries. What is Iraq anyway? As a project, as a nation state, how did it came about? And it was a creation. There was no such a thing as one nation state, unified, all Arabs, all one nation, one culture, and so on. There were Jewish, there were Assyrians, there were lots of other, different people who lived there, and who have contributed into the civilization in this region. Of course, the history is very biased. It reduces it only to the Arab civilization in the region, which is very biased, and it only helped to maintain nepotism and dictatorship and fascism in that region, in my opinion. And unfortunately, we don't have people from that region to condemn this problem. And it's also, that's why, in my opinion, decolonization of knowledge is very important, because what is being fed to people, it's a wrong history, it's a wrong knowledge, in my opinion, as well, both from the people in the region and from the Western influence as well, both in terms of government and intellectuals and academics as well. So the very simple point that you were talking about, for example, the point of building a state. Well, can you tell me which country in the Middle East is actually a state? I doubt all of them to actually represent any basic definition of statehood. You cannot force people to live within the confines on one border, to subject them to genocide, to basically prevent them from speaking their own language, to basically kill them, bomb them, and destroy their homes, and for example, look at Turkey, for example. The prisons are full of Kurdish people. It's full of political representatives who were actually elected throughout Turkey, but they are serving long terms of 100 years, 50 years of imprisonment in Turkey. Did they actually ask for a referendum? Did they actually ever spoke about Kurdish independence? So this is the kind of, if Turkey was hailed for a very long time as one democratic state in the Middle East, but look how they have been treating the Kurdish people through genocide, through preventing them from any kinds of existence, really. I mean, just last year and the year before, they were almost carrying out genocides, but nobody actually there to say why you are doing this to these Kurdish people, Kurdish civilians, what have they done? So these are the kind of questions we have to really ask. Another point is, especially the part, that where I grew up under Saddam's regime, and my family were Peshmerga forces from the 1970s and 80s, and that's the proudest moment of my life, that we were not complicit with the regime, and we actually took up arms against it, and we fought, and we lost our loved ones. And I voted for yes in the independent referendum because I wanted to break up Iraq, because I wanted to break up that imperialist project that people like Saddam and the ones before him, and now Abadi and Maliki, and every one of them, if you look at their language, it's actually the same language. Language of genocide, language of oppression, and language of denying the most basic, simple rights for Kurdish people. I was not shocked, of course, but I was somehow saying, well, if they love us so much to be in the united Iraq, what kind of language are they using? You know, from 2003 till now, what kind of steps they have taken to say, let's reconcile with Kurdish people, we've subjected them to genocide, we've destroyed their villages, we've basically killed all these people, let us do some reconciliation, at least the government should have apologized, the Iraqi fascist army should have apologized, there should have been a lot of processes taking place, but instead, in that parliament, you had all these, so-called lawmakers and representatives fighting against each other. Of course, I should mention that as well. Someone like me, and so many people were shocked when I voted yes in the independence referendum, because it was declared by Masoud Barzani, the leader of KDP, and I have been opposed to the Kurdish government as well, because of the violation of human rights, because of the violation of women's rights, because of corruption and nepotism as well. But that doesn't mean I say no to independence of Kurdistan. Because if there's only one simple right that people in Kurdistan should have had, it should have been in the 1920s, and they should have not been forced to actually live with these fascistic, nation states. Why should people, generations before me and even generations after me and my own generation, go through so much suffering just because we live with some people on the same land and we are somehow treated different and inferior and less deserving of citizenship and human rights. Let's also not forget that these same nation states are not good to their own people as well. For example, Abadi is not good to Iraqi people. I have seen people throwing things at him when he goes into the public. Let's not forget that. They are not brilliant. I mean, if the Iraqi government have done anything in the past 13 years, they should have created a model. They should have become a role model in the region for some sort of democratic rule, for some sort of institution that respects human rights. But just recently, they have passed a legislation. It's a legislation of making pedophilia a legitimate right of men. Sorry, what kind of government is this? What kind of nation state is that, where pedophilia is actually officially allowed by the government? There are members of the parliament who are married to 13-year-old girls. What kind of government? What kind of nation state? What kind of a model I should look up to it? Of course, I don't want such government, and I don't want to live within the confine of the borders of such sexist, racist, oppressive nation state. There's another issue that I wanted to speak about is these governments, generally speaking, haven't, even in the region, look at all other governments as well. They are not democratic. Nepotism and corruption is widespread everywhere. And also the oil is a very big problem in this region. It has invited a lot of invited guests to actually divide you, to invade you, to colonize you, and to just make you fight each other forever. And of course, Kurdish forces have caught up in this, and they haven't been very nice to each other. And this is why we ended up in this situation that we are. But to actually say that the referendum is the only point where these problems happen, it's wrong, because the problem has been there for the past at least 90 years, and it's a 1 century long question, and it has to be solved. Otherwise, there will be no peace, there will be no democratic nation state in this region. You cannot have a democratic nation state based on citizenship of a lower, like second-class citizens and first-class citizens, and oppressing other people. Look at Iran. Ahwazis have no right, and they are Arabs. Baha'is have all been killed and forced to go. Jewish cannot exist almost in the Middle East. Christians are already leaving the countries. I mean, Kurdistan as a society so far has been the most tolerant place for everybody to live together, despite the corruption and the nepotism of our rulers. We are opposed to them, but for someone like me, also as a woman, to improve the position of women in my society, to actually make laws change, to make things happen, we can't fight or we can't demand from a non-government entity. KRG has been almost something existing in suspension. That's why, and you go to Iraqi government, it has no basis basically, and they always come up with violation of women's rights. So as much as a feminist, I am critical of nation states and find them difficult, and the laws are patriarchal and masculinist, but at the same time, lack of it as well can contribute to a lot more misery and suppression and delaying women's rights as well. So this is why the referendum in Kurdistan as well, and I'll probably speak one more minute, the referendum in Iraqi Kurdistan as well gave a lot of hope to other parts as well. A lot of Kurdish people from everywhere, they were so happy about that, because for the first time, even symbolically, we had the right, we wanted to say we don't want to live within the confines of a nation state that was put by force, that is a colonialist project, and that people have that simple basic right, and they don't have to be killed for it, invaded for it, the women to be raped, the homes to be bombed and exploded. Look at the social media created by this Hajj al-Sha'bi and their supporters and the political parties in Iraq. They are posting videos that is really heartbreaking, I cannot watch. And also, so many Iraqi politicians have posted, tweeted, unbelievable language that they were using. They were even saying Saddam was not enough to not being able to get rid of Kurds. Look at this kind of political discourse. It's not a simple basic error that somebody can make in Twitter or Facebook. This is politicians. Also, so many people who were considering themselves so-called intellectuals and you name it, academics and so on, they were saying, oh, Iraq must be united and so on. But when Hajj al-Sha'bi comes and commits so many crimes against the civilians, none of them mentions anything, none of them condemn the crimes of Hajj al-Sha'bi against Kurdish civilians. Where does all this hypocrisy comes from? Is it only Abadi and Hajj al-Sha'bi, or actually the people are also complicit in the fascism that is going on in this region against Kurdish people? So I think, as much as I am an internationalist myself and I want borders to be abolished everywhere, but at the same time, I think this question must be resolved once and for all. Kurdish independence has to happen. If not today, it has to happen somehow in the future. Thank you very much.